air wafting weightlessly like ink. Then her hand reached his neck, and she saw more people. At first, they appeared to be moving to music, glittering couples swaying on a dance floor. But then, in a shift of perspective, she saw hundreds of bodies, each alone, swaying upright, underwater. An underwater graveyard, with thousands of unseeing eyes staring directly at her. Suddenly she felt sick. The light changed outside, the sky grew darker, and in the small, dim room, the body on the table seemed to break beneath her touch. Then, from inside that, as if it were a hollowed-out broken sculpture, came pouring waves of water. She placed her hands on the man's back until she could not see the swaying bodies any longer. She took a breath. For the moment, there were no more visions. She was safe. Yet within him, she knew, were only more stories. For a soldier's body is a work of art that contains his country's history. "You were saying something in your sleep," she said. "No," he said. "Yes, you were trying to tell me something." He whispered something inaudible, then nothing. She had her hand on his arm, and in a sudden flash, she saw a pair of cymbals made of burnished, beaten metal. She thought she could hear the reverberations of their clanging, as if from a great distance. Then she looked down at his face and saw the rapid, uncontrollable movement of his eyelids. He was sleeping, but he was not at peace. He began to speak again. This time it was clear, and she could make out most of the words. He described an elaborate ballroom and dancing with his hand pressed firmly against a woman's back. He talked about someone who disappeared. "For years I looked for her in the jungle, in the desert. I saw her face on the body of a tiger." He opened his eyes, but he was still sleeping. She looked into those eyes, and they were shining, metallic. What was he trying to tell her? "We died that night at Roseland." He said they fell in love because of the music. Count Basie was making his New York debut on Christmas Eve at the Roseland Ballroom. The Count, and the reflections of the Count on the instruments, swayed slightly when he lifted his arm. He turned in time to the beat, and his image danced along the line of brass, so that although he was gracefully and confidently conducting his orchestra, he appeared to be imprisoned inside the music. He took a seat at the piano. He nodded his head. The music swung. The bodies on the dance floor moved like thoughts in one consciousness, bubbles in a glass of champagne. He said he put his hand on a woman's back. He pulled her close. When they danced slow, and that's when he knew that the music would kill them both. On the dance floor there were hundreds of us, swaying upright like moving tombstones. "Is this a dream?" she asked. "No," he said. "When did it happen?" 1936. 1936. Joe lifted his black saxophone case with one hand, and with the other he picked up his brown leather suitcase. He used his arm to push his hat a little bit back on his head. He watched the city coming toward him. Over the railing, in the water, the reflection of the skyline slid closer, with its gray syringe buildings shooting straight ahead like a metal tray of instruments being handed to a doctor. He would not have known what to do with them. He was a musician. The boat pulled in lazily to the harbor, and the air tasted like salt and dirt and real silver. Across the green expanse of river, he saw a milling crowd. In that instant, he lived peacefully with the certain knowledge that he would be met with an embrace. His wife would be there. He couldn't help smiling. "Someone's happy to be home," a stranger said to him. "Welcome to New York City," Joe said. The sun was strong, although shrouded now and then by clouds, and he was hot in his best suit. When the ship finally pulled in, he saw the cumulus blow away to